This is a brief tutorial of the game Draft and Write Records as played on Board Game Arena. Draft and Write Records is similar to a roll and write or a flip and write, but instead you're drafting cards and then simultaneously doing whatever shows on that card. But it has all of the features of normal roll and writes where you're checking one thing off to combo and do another and trying to fill in as many things as you can before the end of the game is triggered. But if you've ever played a drafting game like Seven Wonders or Sushi Go, you know the idea of you have a hand of cards, in this case 5 cards. You take one and you pass it to either the right or to the left, and that switches each round. And then you'll get a hand of 4, you get to pick one from that, and a hand of 3, and then you end up finally with a hand of 2 cards. You choose one to take the action, and then you get rid of the other. So that's what's called the weekday phase of this game, is where you are passing cards and doing the actions of those cards. And then there's a weekend phase where you check to see if you've completed any goals, whether they be private or public goals. And then you start a new weekday phase if the game has not been triggered, if the end game has not been triggered. So let's talk a little bit about what these cards do and what you can fill in when you play one of the cards. There are 3 main types of cards, and then one that pops up every once in a while. There are band member cards that fill up your band here. We're building a band and going on tour and releasing albums and so on and so forth. But the main cards will either be band member cards. They're the ones that look like this, that have the number and the symbols around it and different types. There is the event cards, which are these ones here in yellow that are symbols that you are able to cross off. And then there are asset cards here. Same idea, you cross off symbols and get bonuses. And then all of these will trigger other things that will trigger bonuses that let you go on the bus here, release singles and albums, create harmonies, get multipliers, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to first talk about the different actions that you can do with the cards, and a lot of those actions will trigger various bonuses. We'll talk about the bonuses after we talk about the various actions that you take. So the first, again, and the most complicated, are these band member cards. You have 4 different types. You have 1 lead singer, 4 musicians, 3 production crew, and 4 backstage crew. And you can look at the card and tell what type it is. But BGA is very helpful. When you hover over a card, it tells you the places where you can place that, which row that it might go in. When you place a card, or when you choose to play a band member card, you will stick this number in the middle, and then the 4 symbols will go on the different 4 symbols above it. Now, some of these symbols are connected to others, and if you can match the same color symbol to each other, then you create harmony, and that gives you a bonus down here. So currently, if I played this one here, and the red was on the side there, and the purple on the top here, and then I played a lead singer eventually where I had a purple here, that would connect purple in these, and then I would get a purple bonus, and I could pick one of these purple ones to cross off of these harmony tracks. So it's not required to make the harmonies. You can put anything in one of these spots if you have it available. But creating those harmonies gets you those bonuses and lots of points. So it's definitely, if you can do it, you want to try to. That is placing a band member. We'll talk about some of these require money. We'll talk about how that works in a minute, but for now, you can place any that don't have that money symbol, and eventually the ones that do. Filling up your band is one trigger of the end game. So if somebody fills all 12 spots, then the game ends, and it doesn't even finish out the round. It ends right there, and you go to the weekend phase, and then the game is over. So, and if you don't complete any of the band, you get negative points. So it's good to be focused on filling up that band. And that's where you can get a lot of points as well. That number in the middle is points that you will get. All right, events. These are much more straightforward. It gives you a symbol. Sometimes it'll give you a choice of two symbols, and then you decide which symbol to cross off. And again, BGA will show you the various options that you have. And when you were here, this is kind of a bingo board. You are trying to create 4 in a row, whether that's columns, rows, or the diagonals. And when you do that, you get bonuses or points. So if I completed this row, for example, I would get this bonus and this bonus. If I completed this column, I would get 5 points here and 5 points there. If I completed the diagonal, I would get this and this bonus. This diagonal would get this and this bonus. So completing rows, columns, diagonals, and you get the bonuses of those lines. Finally, the assets, same idea. It'll give you a symbol to use or a choice of symbols to use, and you put it down here in one of the white spots. You mark it off. But in this case, all you're doing is trying to surround these bonuses. So if I first took this one and marked off this heart, and then later marked off this microphone, then I would get this yellow bonus, which, if you notice, lets me mark something up over here. It's that symbol for the event. So I can do that, trigger that, get one of those, and then maybe I'd trigger an event there, and so on and so forth. These things can really combo. That is how you fill in those with the cards. The final card that you may see is called a scandal card. You usually don't want to play those because they mark here and give you negative points. And if there's a case where you just cannot play any of the cards that are given to you, typically it's going to be if you don't have the room for the band members, like you already have a lead singer and all you have in your hand are 2 lead singer cards, you can't play either of them. You just have to take a scandal and mark that off. Or if it's a scandal card, you have to take that as well. These are not cumulative, and the most you can get is minus 20 points. That will trigger the end of the game. Typically that's not going to happen, but it's something to avoid if you can. Those are the different types of cards. You play those cards out in those various sections, and then you get the various bonuses based on those cards. All right, let's talk about bonuses. So I already mentioned these hexagons. Whenever you see a hexagon, those are points at the end of the game. So these hexagons that you're filling in with the numbers there, these rows that you're filling in, there's no points over here. These, if you fill in a column or a row, you get points based on the row or column. And then as you're traveling down these paths, anytime you cross one of these spots with a point number, those are points that you get at the end of the game. Let's talk about money, because that's an important one. So there's certain places where you can get a money bonus. Here, 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 or any of these 4 harmony bonuses. And when you get one of those money bonuses, that lets you then mark off one of these money symbols with the asterisks on it that will prevent you from doing something. So in this case, until you pay for this spot in the band, then you do not get to put anybody in that spot. That's why when I hover over this one, it only shows me these 2 that I can go into, because these 2 I've not paid for yet. So I have to get a bonus from money and pay for those before I can fill a band member in. The other place where you need money is along this bus route. Whenever you get a bus route bonus, which is this thing here, this orange one, you can start going down a path. But if I'm here, if I've gone down this path, I cannot go further until I mark this off with a money bonus. So those are the 2 places you use money. And that's pretty important because you could get into a situation where you can't use any of the people because you don't have a place for them because you haven't paid for the spots, or you don't get to use your bonus, your travel bonus, because you're at dead ends at any place that you go. Speaking of those travel bonuses, like I said, you start from here and you can start to go down paths. You can go down either path. You can start down this path and then go down this path later. And for each symbol, you get to move 1, and then those will give you bonuses or points as you go along. And the farther that you can get along, the bigger the bonuses can be. Sometimes you'll see a gray symbol here. That just allows you to mark off anything in your harmonies bonus. And then you also see these blue ones. So there's the cassette tapes and the vinyl. Vinyl is kind of a weird symbol. It's got this case on it. So whenever you see kind of the weird indent symbol, that's these vinyl, the singles that you're releasing, and then the cassettes or the albums that you're releasing. In any case, when you get that bonus, you mark off the leftmost spot, and then that could give you another bonus. If you mark off the first one here, now you've got a money bonus that you can use. If you mark off this one, then you get a tour bus, which may let you mark off another one. So you can start making it down these rows, which is good because at the end of the game, you multiply the number of spaces on this one times the number of spaces you marked off on that one, and you get that many points as well. So if I have 4 here and 3 marked here, then I get 12 points around this for this blue spot. Finally, some kind of different types of bonuses. There are these multipliers that you can get around here. When you get a multiplier, then you cross it off. Well, sorry, when you get the multiplier, then you mark it here first. Then you have it available to use. And the way that you use the multipliers is if you decide to place a band member. So let's say I had a ×3 multiplier available. When I place that band member, I can multiply that 4 times 3 and get 12 points instead of 4 points. And then that multiplier is used for that one case. So those will increase the points that you can get from your band members. That's what those multipliers do. And then finally is this symbol here. It looks like a Trivial Pursuit piece. What this lets you do is fill in a color on one of the spots. So this spot here, and then these 3 spots down here, you can fill in a color of any color that you want. Now, why would you do that? Well, you're going to have a card here, hopefully, and if you can harmonize with whatever color that you fill in, then you get the harmony bonus. So usually you want to wait on those until you have some cards filled in so you know what color to put them in, but you can get some extra bonuses that way as well. All right, that's everything on the board here. Let's talk a little bit about goals. So we talked about passing the cards around, taking one, passing it until you get 2 cards left, then getting rid of one and keeping the last one, and then the weekday phase is done and the weekend phase comes. And then everybody checks the goals that are out publicly, and you check your private goal. These goals can be very simple things, like this one is just get these 2 symbols in the assets section, a radio and a mobile phone. They have their own names for it. This one is just get 3 radio symbols, and then they'll give you a certain number of points. This one would get you 4 points. This one would give you 8 points plus a multiplier, so some of them give bonuses as well. And some of them are more complicated. Things like have 3 members of your backstage crew with a purple and a yellow symbol on them. Or this one is fill in every single symbol on the outside ring of that. But those are worth more points, more bonuses. The way this works is at each weekend phase, each will be evaluated, and anybody that qualifies for that goal can write that goal here in one of their 6 spots and write the value of that point. If anybody claims it during the weekend phase, then it is removed and a new one is drawn and shown. So multiple people can get it at the same time, but if somebody gets it in one round, then the next round it will no longer be available. I should mention that, so in this weird playback setting that I'm in, you can't see the usernames and the stats over here for some reason, but in normal games you would see this part, this section on your right, and this is really helpful because it does 2 things. One, it tracks all of the goals and how far people are in those goals, and so you can see, my opponent's about to complete goal number 3. If I don't get goal number 3 this round, then I won't have any chance at it. It also tracks your own private goals. Obviously, you don't know the other player's private goals. It also tracks everybody's end game conditions. So I mentioned that the game will end if the band is filled for any one player. The game will end if anybody's goals all get filled, and the game will end if anybody fills in all of their scandal spots. And if that happens during a weekend phase, then that's just the last weekend phase. If it happens during, like the band is filled or the scandal is filled during the weekday phase, there's no more passing. That's the last turn, and then we go to the weekend phase, and the game is over. I should mention that the goals are optional. So if I got this goal, and let's say I had 5 goals and I got this one, maybe I wouldn't want to use the 4, because if I can do one more round, then I can get this 18 next round. And so you can pass on goals if you would like. You also will check your personal goal. You can pass on that if you don't want it in the current round. Like I think in this case, I passed on it once because I was blocked at the buses. I didn't have enough money, and so I waited around so that when I got it, I could actually use the bus bonus. So there's some tactics around that. Finally, everybody adds up their scores. So you get scores for your band members, you get scores for your goals, score for any of your harmonies that you make, the scores for any points you get up for these rows and columns, any points you get along the bus routes, and then you multiply this row by this row, and you minus your scandals, and that's your total points. And that's how you play. So again, the nice thing about BGA is that it will do a lot of the work for you. It says, hey, you pick this card, decide where to place it, and it puts it there and it fills in all the colors for you. And in the physical game, you're having color in each one. It'll find the connections for you. It'll tell you, where to put each of the different things. If you get a bonus, it'll show you where to do that, and you can undo. There's a lot of nice features of this BGA version that makes it a little easier to track some of those combos and colors that you're putting together. And it also live scores here for you, so you can kind of see how things are going. Again, you're passing the cards, then you're evaluating goals. If nobody is triggered in end of game, then you have to do another round. Typically, it's going to do at most 6 rounds, but it could end certainly quicker than that. And it's possible to go to 7, but probably not beyond that. That is how you play draft and write records. Hope this was helpful.